Okay, Marissa, you probably heard that. Got the recording on. Okay, this is Chairman Mike McCoo calling the Thursday, February 18th Board of Finance meeting to order. This is a special meeting for budget purposes as well as a regularly scheduled meeting. Seating of alternates is next. Steph is out on an excused absence. So I would like to make a motion to seat Lisa in her place. Can I get a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Jeff. Marissa, can you call the votes?
Peter,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda, approval of minutes. I believe we have minutes for February 11th. And I have reviewed them. I don't have any additional comments. Other members?
I'll move to approve.
So we have a motion to approve from Peter.
I'll second that also.
All right, any discussion? Addition or corrections? No. Marissa, you see we've got Christina also.
Hi.
Yeah, sound check, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Marissa, you can do the vote.
Christina, did you have any additions or anything for the minutes last week?
Thank you.
Okay. Jeff,
Yes.
Matt,
Abstain.
Peter,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, present to speak. Public participation is desired and encouraged. Speakers will be limited to time and appropriateness of comments to maintain progress, stay on topic, and maintain decorum. As is our usual routine, if you are providing video, please wave your hand and we will call on you to speak if you wish to speak during present to speak. Mr. Anderson?
Yes, Peter Anderson, Conservation Commission. I have just a few brief words to say regarding the Talmadge open space purchase. And I know we're on the menu later and I can save those comments for when our budget is being reviewed or now as you prefer.
If you don't mind, we'll do it during that time on the agenda.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else providing video? Mr. Spooner?
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm the pastor of St. Paul's Church, and I have some comments on the project in South Willington on River Road with the sidewalk. And should I hold off until that comes up later or now?
Why don't you go ahead now?
Okay. So I've kind of been following this a little bit. I was in a meeting with a few people a couple days ago about it. I don't know if I'm the best person to represent. Most of the people who would speak more knowledgeably than I weren't able to make it. But I believe you have an email that you received from Tom Bassino about it. But I just want to represent the fact that yes, the sidewalk is very bad there. The sidewalk, like if anyone tries to shovel it, the shovels break because it's so cracked and everything. And we have people who come to the church from the residential center down the road, High Chase Residential Center, and they have a lot of trouble with the sidewalk there. If they're in a wheelchair or using a walker or anything like that, it's really bad. We had one guy try to make the trip who's disabled back in the summer when we were meeting outside. And he broke down in tears because he didn't want to make the walk back. And part of that is just that he's disabled, but part of it also is that he's worried about falling because the sidewalk is in bad shape. And so I ended up driving him, which I didn't really want to do because it's COVID and enclosed area and everything. But I didn't want him to be at risk. So I just wanted to be here just to say, yeah, the sidewalk is really bad. I understand that funds are limited, but it is a problem. It's been a problem for a while. And if there was any chance that that could get fixed, that would be awesome. So.
Okay, thank you. Other people who are in video who would like to speak and present to speak, wave your hand, please. Peter Latinchich.
Mute. Peter Latinchich, 97 Trask Road. I want to speak tonight on behalf of the appointment of Brenda Abrams to the Board of Finance as an alternate. An outstanding candidate for this position. She was one of the highest vote getters in our last municipal election when she ran for Board of Ed and only narrowly didn't get on the Board of Ed. So I think there's broad community support for Brenda, evidenced by all the votes she received. I think she'd be someone that would be a good addition to the board. And I urge the board to nominate her this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Bulick.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Yes, I'm also speaking on behalf of Brenda Abrams to highly recommend her to fill a vacancy for the alternate position that's open when Republican Mike Perry resigned and moved out of town. Brenda does have management experience. She works in the healthcare industry. I've always known her to be a compassionate individual, somebody who's deliberate, who views all sides of a problem first before jumping to conclusions, or she's a very deliberate, not a rash individual. I think she'd be an excellent candidate for this position. As you know, Wellington Republicans have nominated her. I believe it was late last spring, whenever we had concerns about Mike Perry's board membership, and of course, just recently when we learned he was no longer a registered voter of Wellington. So again, we highly recommend Brenda Abrams, and hope that you give her your best consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in video who would like to speak and present to speak, wave your hand, please. All right, so let's move to those who are not in video. If there are other people who are not providing a video feed, please unmute, call out your name.
Orlando Rodriguez.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't want to speak. I thought I just had it to identify myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, if you want to speak and present to speak, that's what we're calling for. I apologize.
Okay, well, I guess I've asked to be nominated to the Board of Finance, and I've been dealing with Connecticut finance issues through my work for almost 20 years now. So I'm very familiar with most of the state grants to municipalities and education. I know it inside and out. There's a lot of things I don't know. I can't sing, I can't write, I can't, but I'm very familiar with the state's finances. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you. Others who are not on video who would like to speak during present to speak, please unmute and call out your name. Okay, I don't believe we have anyone else. I have two screens of participants, but I think I've looked at everybody. Okay. So moving on to old business. Item 1, budget presentations tabled previously.
Mike, Jim Bulick here.
Yes.
Are people who are dialed in able to unmute?
Yes, they're able to, they should be able to unmute themselves.
I know Brenda is online.
All right, so hang on. So let's go back to present to speak for a minute to make sure we don't miss anything.
Hi, this is Brenda. I am here. And I do appreciate the nomination of being on the Board of Finance. I'm excited about it. I'm been showing interest in this for a long time, and I'm just excited that I have the opportunity to be on the Board of Finance. I have a lot of management experience. I've worked within budgets, for the last 35 years. I'm not one to make rash decisions like Jim said. Thank you, Jim. And I consider the whole picture. I don't just make a decision off of, one item. I look at the whole thing comprehensively. And I'm looking forward to be able to work with the Board of Finance in the town of Billington. And I thank you for the opportunity that I may have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to, just because that came up. Yeah, I don't have anything. I'm checking the mute rules here. I think it allows participants to unmute themselves, so I don't think we should have anyone who is unable to communicate. So again, moving on to old business, item 1A, Department 0231 Fire Marshal. I know Dick Palmer was with us here. Let's see. Dick is connecting right now, it looks like. In the meantime, I will say board members do have a copy of Dick's letter. As he indicated in his letter, he has 0 increase this year. He's a flat budget over the current fiscal year. And if we can get him in, all the way into the meeting, into the Zoom world here, then we'll give him a chance to speak about anything he wants to on his budget. All right, Dick, if you can hear me, we're going to move on, but as soon as you come on, we'll bring you back up. We'll come back to you as soon as. Okay, so for the moment, I'm going to move on to 1B, which is the AED, or Automatic External Defibrillator budget. Chief Moore, looks like you're going to speak on that.
Yes, if that's okay.
Yes.
For the AED budget, there is no increase. We've done this project the last 2 years to outfit all of the town buildings, fire stations, and now we're going to start getting into fire apparatus to replace and update to new equipment. This current year, the plan is River Road Park, River Road Firehouse, Old Farms Road Firehouse, Center School, and replace 1 outdated unit on a fire apparatus. Next year would replace 2 outdated units, 1 at the old town hall, 1 at the library, and 1 at Hall School Upper Wing.
What is your budget request for this year?
6,000.
Okay, and how many units was that again?
It'll be for 5, but it's also with the equipment to hang in the buildings, and
Okay.
same as this year. It was 5 this year as well.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry I don't have that, but I'm trying to keep an eye on all the screens here, trying to get Dick back in, so I can't move around too much.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody on the board have questions or comments for Chief Moore? Lisa?
Chief Moore, can you tell me with the AEDs, why they need to be replaced? Typically, they can last quite a long time by replacing the battery and the pads.
Yep, so the ones on the apparatus are no longer supported, so if something breaks,
Okay, yeah,
the same with the school, they're no longer supported. The ones in the schools and the ones on the apparatus are all old. So that's why we're trying to replace as many as we can. Plus
I
outfit the
think they're
buildings that
10 years
don't
old, aren't
have
they?
AED.
They are 10 years old, aren't they?
The ones in the school,
Yeah, aren't they Zoll Medical?
I think are older than 10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
they're old. So,
Thank you.
and that's the problem we're having is trying to find parts in the,
Yep. Thank you.
Anybody else from the board with comments or questions for Chief Moore on the defibrillator budget? Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, Matt Clark.
Oh, Matt, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chief Moore, are you going to be here during correspondence?
I'm sorry, sir?
Are you going to be here when we review correspondence?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for Chief Moore on that? Okay, Dick Palmer, I saw you pop up there. Did we lose you again? Okay, I'm not seeing Dick Palmer. If he pops up again, we'll have to interrupt what we're doing to see if we can get him. All right, moving on to the next item. Old business item 2, public health crisis update, potential effect on municipal budgets. Erica, do you have anything new on this?
I don't, well, I have a little bit of information about potential. I apologize while you're talking, I'm looking for the email. Congressman Courtney's office has disseminated some information that's beginning to come out regarding the American Rescue Plan estimated allocations for Connecticut. And based on these, Willington's portion could be upwards of $1.3 million. And they have given some guidance on eligible uses. They're pretty broad based, but they could also include this time, as opposed to the last relief dollars, lost revenue, revenue that was lost, delayed, or decreased as a result of the emergency. So that is different. It's a large sum of money, but I think there's a lot to do on the federal side before we know exactly what kind of funds we'll be getting, if any.
Okay, and we don't have updated unemployment numbers yet, correct?
No, I checked just before the meeting as per typical. I bet we'll have them tomorrow morning.
Yes, I believe that's probably true.
That's been the standard, is that third Friday.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nick, I can see you. Can you hear us? Looks like it says you're muted, but I can see you talking.
All right, how's that?
There you go. We got you.
I got a brand new phone, so it takes me a little while to get used to it.
All right, don't move anywhere.
No, I'm not.
Okay, I don't know if you could hear us before. I just did a quick summary saying that you had no changes in your budget. Is there anything else you'd like to enlighten us with or comment on with your budget?
No, I was able to purchase the newer code books out of the last year's budget, so I'm all set as far as the code books, and the budget stays the same. So I've been pretty fortunate, kind of frugal, and in my purchases, and trying to share correspondence and standards and stuff with the other fire marshals.
Okay, I believe there was supposed to be a code change this last September, and it was pushed off to this coming September. Is that still on track?
It's supposed to be, but you know, I don't know how the state's gonna do that. You know, it's just one of those things. It's supposed to be last year. Hopefully it'll get done this year. But when I did purchase the manuals and stuff, I made sure that the manuals that I got were for disapproval, period.
Okay, so you'll be okay if they do approve the code change this coming September. You'll be all set.
I'll be all set.
Excellent.
So other than that, my budget is you know, reflects no increase. So I you know, as submitted, it's the same it has been in the past. So anybody got any questions?
You did also, just want to highlight, you did ask that if a raise was put in for town employees, that you follow that raise. You're requesting that you would follow that raise, right?
Yes, I did.
Other board questions, comments while we have Dick on the line? Looks like you're all set, sir.
All right. This is a
Thank
little
you.
learning curve with a new phone.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike. All right, thank you.
Okay, Erica, sorry to interrupt you there. I just wanted to grab him while he was on.
No, perfectly fine.
You all set?
I am.
Okay, I did just look at kind of some of the things I usually look at. Real estate is still moving very strongly. And I'll entertain other comments on this from board members. Matt?
In my news feed today, this morning, it was reported there's 821,000 new initial jobless claims by Apple, but I don't know. So that's nationwide, of course, it's not just Wellington, but we are not, this recession is continuing on. Thank you.
Any other comments on old business 2, public health? All right, moving on to item 3, CIP capital funding process. CIP met again last night. The CIP plan is pretty well put together, but there was not a quorum to allow a vote last night. So we can anticipate that the CIP will be officially codified next week and moved on to the selectmen, and it'll come to us through the selectmen, the Board of Selectmen. Any other comments, questions on capital?
Yeah, next time you don't have a quorum, just call me.
Okay. You make sure the chairman of that board knows that instruction too. Okay, monitoring current fiscal year budget. Donna sent out a report this afternoon, which I forwarded to all of you. I'm gonna see if I can bring it up on my screen while I'm still. Okay. Any comments so far? I'm assuming board members are reviewing as I am right now and trying to carry the columns down. Please pardon me. So it looks like general government, we are, I don't have an exact percentage, but it looks like we're pretty close to running on about right percentage wise. K through 8 education is running under the run rate, as well as is School District 19. I'm not sure if they have a different way that they apply expenses. But if you look at total budget, we're at about 11 million out of 17.7 million. Donna, if you are available, can you point out if you see anything concerning or alarming in our current rate of expenses? Board comments, questions? Matt?
Yeah, I don't have any comments on that specifically, and I don't know if this is going to come up later on in our conversation, but I think I read in the documents that you sent, Mike, that we're behind on revenue collections by 9%. Is that right?
I don't have that one in front of me.
I can give you some
Is it on the
information about
agenda
that,
for-
Matt.
Is it on the-
And I can comment on that also. In the email I sent to you, Mike, this is Lori Semperbon. I said that we had a tax collector deposit just after the end of January. And with that, we're at about 91%. But people have until April 1st to pay their taxes, unlike other years. And so the tax amounts are still coming in.
Okay. Erica?
So to Lori's point, and then she gave you a report up to January, Janice, our revenue collector, shared some information with me end of day today that according to her numbers to date, February 18th, we're at 94.42% of our 98% collection. And again, folks have until April 1st before they're considered late. For comparison's sake, she shared that a year ago to date, we were at 98.83.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Okay. Board of Finance manual policies. I have nothing new on that right now. I'm not giving that. I'm not able to give that a lot of attention during budget season. We'll come back to that later. Unless anyone else has a comment or question on that right now. All right. Item 6, annual reports. The FY19 annual report was compiled and sent out to board members. Missing from that now is a report that Donna is getting for us.
No, it's all set.
Oh, you do have it. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay. So we're not waiting for that report anymore.
Nope, it is done.
It is done. Okay, thank you. So we will move now to compiling the FY20. Any questions, comments?
We couldn't have done those together. Not together, but
Well, yeah, no, I guess is the easy answer is no.
okay.
Old business item 7.
Well, for some context, I think the annual report was sent out so that if you guys have any feedback on what, is being looked for as far as the annual report, that's why we sent out this one. So you guys could get a look at what that looks like.
Fair point. Old business item 7, appointment to fill vacancy, alternate, which expires at the next municipal election in November of this year, 2021. As board members know, from comments and from emails, at this point, we have 2 interested parties. We have heard some from each of those parties, so I'll open it up to some discussion. And Certainly, if there are any other nominations that the board, any board members want to bring forward or names, this is the time we need to do it.
Mike,
Yes, Pete.
I'd like to nominate Brenda Abrams for the position of alternate on the Board of Finance.
All right. We
I'll
have a
second.
nomination and a second from Peter and a second from Matt for Brenda Abrams. Discussion on the nomination.
Can I ask questions of Brenda during this time?
I don't see why not. I think we did that last time.
I don't think we asked.
No, I
Question.
mean months ago. I think we did that in the last series.
Sure, a month ago.
Oh,
So yes, go ahead.
oh, okay. So Brenda, I just was curious to know what size budget you are responsible for. When you say you are a director in a healthcare setting, are you responsible for how many employees and what is that budget size? Like, what is that book of business that you are managing?
Well, I'm in charge of about 8 employees, and with COVID, it's a little less right now. And the budget entails of meeting the needs of 150 residents, and for their social, their emotional, their mental, cognitive, and spiritual needs, which entails, I would say about $1,300 right now because of COVID, $1,300 a month. And when we're fully open, it's a much larger budget. And also doing events throughout for the community, within the facility, marketing, and that budget entails about $2,500 a month.
So you are, I'm gonna guess, are you the activities director of the skilled nursing facility?
I am. Mhm.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm also part of the marketing team also, yes.
Christina?
I just wanted to ask Brenda about her familiarity with our budget. This vacancy is really just to fill up until the next election, which is in November.
Mhm.
So really it's just to serve through the remainder of this budget season, which we're already halfway through. So I'm just wondering if you understand our process, if anyone has explained it to you, and also if you watched any of our meetings that we've had so far so that you're up to speed, because otherwise it's a lot to catch up to in a very short amount of time.
Yes, I do understand that it's just a temporary position. And yes, I have talked with Jim, I have talked with Peter Latinchik, and I've spoken with Peter Tanaka in length, and Jeff also. And they've been very supportive and very helpful in filling me in with what it all involves, yes. So they've been very helpful to catch me up to speed, to say yes.
And have you actually seen our budget and like?
I've been following on YouTube. For meetings that I have attended some meetings, yes, of course, but when I can't, I follow up with YouTube and I follow up with the minutes on the Town of Wellington website, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
That's questions. Okay, I'm going to ask a question of the board because I don't remember how we resolved this last time. I know we got into nomination and then a board member had a question for one of the other interested parties. And I don't remember how we resolved that, if we asked questions of the other parties as well while we were still in the nomination. Does anyone remember that?
No, I wish I did.
Matt, I think maybe were you one of the parties during that? There was a night that, I think it was when, John Patton and, Mike Perry were also involved,
No,
so potential candidates.
no.
Is that the time you nominated me?
Mm-mm.
I think it was a different meeting.
Okay,
I guess what I'm driving at here is if someone has a question for Orlando,
I do.
then I'm not sure if we're already, I don't see why we can't ask him a question.
Point of order.
Yes, go ahead.
We have a motion on the table, so.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, how best to progress with the discussion of the motion.
Continue with the motion.
Yes, I agree, but I'm thinking this, I'm trying to figure out if this is legitimate discussion for that motion.
Well, I don't think we had an opportunity to talk to either one of them, and Peter made the motion, so it was like sort of premature, right?
Well, it's not, I mean, the motion was in order.
I believe it was a nomination, and I seeing as how we're looking at multiple candidates, shouldn't we have a nomination for the other candidate, and so we can listen to both of them before we go forward?
That's what I'm trying to figure out the right process for. Yes.
It seems to me that we should, if we don't have a second nomination, then we don't have any kinds of issues here. So
So that would not be in conflict.
But what if we wanted to make that nomination and didn't beat you to it?
well, I think we can have multiple nominees for a position, can't we? Then what we do is we choose between the two.
Oh,
That would
okay.
be my
Yes.
thought, is we have two nominees for every other office.
Yes. Every other organization I'm involved with, the nominees are all put up, and then after the nominees are put up, then you go to voting on them afterwards.
Yeah, that was my thought and experience as well, Mike.
So it would not be out of order to nominate Orlando for the purpose of discussion. Is that what we're agreeing on, that it's not out of order?
Yes.
Okay, so for the purpose of discussion, I'll nominate Orlando Rodriguez.
I second.
Okay. Does anyone, Orlando, are you with us?
Damn.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for Orlando Rodriguez?
I do.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Orlando, you just had mentioned that you have extensive experience with the state budget system. Are you actively involved in another board in town?
Yeah, I am actively involved. Well, I just joined CIP 2 months ago,
Okay.
January.
All right, and you, when you talk about your managerial experience and financial experience, you said with the state, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I never said I had managerial experience. No, I don't manage anyone.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, but I have extensive background. I track the state's finances and where the money's coming, where it's going, where the bonds are, how much the towns get, what you can and you can't do with it, that kind of stuff. So if you want to know what's going on with the state budget, I'm as good a person to ask as anybody else.
That sounds pretty clear.
Yeah, and also I forgot to mention that in 2008, I did state population projections. So I'm a demographer, and so I'm very aware of what goes on with, societies and people changing. And so I'd be a good resource to have when it comes to talking about a new school, what's going to happen going forward, how much can you predict, how much you can't predict, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. That sounds like what we need.
Yeah, I'm more of a resource, a person you go to when you have questions, that kind of thing. If you're looking for someone who has managed a budget before, that's not me. I wouldn't even pretend to be that person. But I'm the guy who's going to tell you, no, you can't do that with that money. Because I run into that a lot, where in particular boards of finance come into conflict with boards of ed in terms of what they can do with boards of ed money. There's a lot of shifting going on. And let's see, a couple of years ago, Ansonia got in trouble with the State Board of Education because they shifted $500,000 from the Board of Ed to the Board of Finance, and that's not allowed. So
Right.
I can help with that kind of thing.
Thanks.
Any other board questions or comments relative to the nomination of Orlando Rodriguez? Matt Clark?
Hi, Orlando. So what exactly is your job? You work for the state government?
I did at one time, yes. At one time, well, I worked at UConn as a demographer, and also did a lot of social economic work there as a researcher. I'm not a PhD, I was staff. And then I went to work for a nonprofit, Connecticut Voices for Children, and we did a lot of policy work on state policies that affect kids. You know, I've done a lot of testimony in the state legislature. I worked for the state legislature for 2 years. So I know how things work internally. And most recently, I work for the Connecticut Education Association. I'm their policy person. So I track what's going on with education budgets and finance budgets and pensions and that kind of thing.
So you're an employee of the CEA?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And you don't manage budgets, but you are you familiar with our budget?
Well, I've looked at it, but I haven't, quite frankly, it's $17 million. But no, I haven't kept track of it because I didn't find out about this opening until probably about a month ago, to tell you the truth.
Okay. And I don't understand. We've been at this, Mike, for how long? We've been at this for several months, 4, 5, 6. I don't know.
At what? What particular?
There's been an opening.
Well, no, because we didn't have the opening until we resolved Mike Perry's status. We had a potential opening, but Mike Perry's status was not resolved until January.
January, so 2 months ago.
Well, today's February 18th.
It wouldn't have been appropriate to do it.
Well, no, just go ahead, Matt.
And then, Orlando, have you been following our meetings, attending any of our meetings or anything like that?
No, not until now.
Thank you.
Other board questions, comments? Okay. I'll take guidance on how we proceed. We have 2 nominations. I know we had Matt.
Yeah, I'd like to call for a vote on Brenda Abrams' nomination for filling the alternate seat on the Board of Finance.
I believe I know where Matt's going with this, but I think that what we need to do is vote on both, take a vote in either yes or no on both candidates, but vote for a candidate.
In other words, each member of the board would select
a name.
Would select a name. I do believe that is how we proceeded last time. We had a 3-way race, I think, last time.
We did. That was in person. You made it a paper ballot, which is impossible now. So.
Correct. Christina?
So what do you want to do? Just call a vote and we say who we want? Each person?
That's possible. Christina, did you have any advice?
I just thought of a question that I'd want to ask them both before we vote, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
The question is, and I guess I'll ask Brenda first and then Orlando, but are you planning on running for this seat in November? Because otherwise, this is, you know, just a sort of temporary position, and it really does take a long time to get up to speed.
You're asking Brenda first?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely be interested in running. Absolutely.
Okay. And
Thank-
Orlando, could you answer that too?
What I'd say is, I would be interested in running, but I don't want to make a commitment now and then have to go back on it. It's just too far off, too many things are unknown, that kind of thing. So I would hate to say yes now and then a month before election say, oh, no, sorry, I can't do it. So I'm basically put it out there. I'd like to, but I can't really say what's going to happen one way or the other.
Thank you.
All right, I have one more question, Mike, and I'm sorry, of Orlando. Orlando, as you know, the rules of the board are the two alternates have to be of different parties. And we currently have a Democrat. Do you have a party affiliation?
I'm unaffiliated.
And have you ever been affiliated with a party?
Years ago, I was affiliated with the Democrats for a couple of months because I wanted to vote for it in their primary. But no, not since then.
Because I did check the records and it said that you've changed unaffiliated as of January of this year. So I was wondering if.
Yeah, I changed back. The reason, so it was like a week. I wanted to get involved in local politics. So I thought, well, I need to pick a party. So I registered as a Democrat, but then I found out, well, no, you don't have to be part of a party to get involved. So I went back to unaffiliated.
All right. So as getting back to Christina's question of if you're going to run in November, how would you run? Would you run as an independent or would you run with a party?
I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't see the world that way. I don't see it as being a Republican or Democrat. I look at the facts and I'm not driven by a political perspective, quite frankly. And
I understand that, but to get on the ballot, you generally you either have to gather a whole lot of signatures or run with a party. That's
Mike, is this,
the
you
down
ask
and
those
dirty
questions?
part of that. So
I'll be honest with you, I am not a political animal. I have not thought about it that far.
Okay.
All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Can you tell me why that's relevant, Pete? Because Pete, are you unaffiliate?
I am not unaffiliated any longer. I was unaffiliated for a while. I am now a Republican. The reason I'm asking is because the bylaws of the committee say that we can't have two members of the same party. So that's why I asked him what party he's in.
But unaffiliate would be
Pardon me?
But with unaffiliate,
Okay,
you
all right,
could have.
Hang on.
Correct.
Order.
That's why I followed up.
Each other. Pete,
I
finish.
followed up on Christina's question on would he run? And
Okay.
if he would run, what party would he run with? And if he says unaffiliated, then it seems to be a higher hurdle to climb because then you have to get the signatures to get on the ballot. That's all I'm asking.
But I find that to be irrelevant for this exercise right now. And you can have 7 unaffiliates. You can have 7 cross-endorsed members, and you can have 7 unaffiliates. Just saying. Okay.
I understand that. I completely understand that.
Okay, great. I just want to make it clear for the town.
Order.
I'm asking to make sure that we're within the bylaws of the rules of the committee. I'm just clarifying for the rules of the committee.
Yes,
Number
and
one.
I'm calling for order, please.
I'm following up on Christina's question. Do you
All right.
understand that, or are we just completely missing each other?
I don't think your message is transparent. I think it's underhanded, to be honest with you.
All right. Hang on. I have muted everybody. I'm calling for order. We're just going back and forth and we're getting chippy and I don't like to operate this way. The question has been answered. Both questions have been answered. Let's get back on topic. Board members, you can feel free to unmute yourself as needed.
I'll throw out, Mike, it's Jeff. I'll throw out one more Orlando, can I ask you one question? Just
Yep, go right ahead, man. As many as you want.
just how did you find out about the open position? How did you get interested in it? That's all.
Well, I was attending, was it the CIP? I don't remember if it came up in CIP or not. Christina, do you remember?
You're muted, Christina.
Not sure. I feel like we've talked about this at a lot of different meetings in the last month, but
Yeah, so I heard it, I don't know. I couldn't tell you for sure.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? What do board members feel about us using the chat option? Each person can type in the candidate that they would prefer or their choice to abstain or whatever as a vote by typing it in the chat feature. Is that doable?
I'm not sure, Mike, that would qualify for a written vote.
Okay, all right, good point.
I'm not clear why it can't be public either.
No, it's not. I'm not trying to make it not public. I'm just trying
Okay.
to find a way to be clear. So then why don't we just have Marissa call each person's name, and they can say the candidate or their choice of candidate, or they can choose to abstain or whatever it's going to be. Is that amenable to the board?
Yeah.
All right. Marissa, why don't
Yeah, sorry about my dog. He barks at the snowplows. Matt,
Brenda Abrams,
Jeff,
Brenda Abrams.
Lisa,
Orlando Rodriguez.
Pete,
Brenda Abrams.
Christina,
Orlando Rodriguez.
Mike.
Brenda Abrams?
That's 4 for Brenda, 2 for Orlando.
Okay. Brenda, welcome to the Board of Finance. Orlando, thank you very much for your interest.
Well, thanks for taking me for. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your votes.
All right, so Brenda, since you are now an alternate member, you, of course, are allowed to participate in conversation. You're not seated for anyone tonight, so you can't vote, obviously. But since you're brand new, I guess this is a great opportunity for you to start listening and soaking it all in.
Yes,
Mike, Erica.
thank you.
She actually is not a
Yeah.
member until she's sworn in, Mike.
Oh,
Right, I was
I'm
gonna say
sorry.
that.
Yes,
Yes.
That unfortunate
you.
formality, sorry.
yes, no, point of order, I was incorrect. You have to be sworn in, I'm sorry.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Erica.
You're welcome. Mike, you and Marissa are gonna have to communicate with the town clerk's office so that the proper steps can be taken.
Okay. All
How
right.
does that happen now? Just thought I mean,
We
you have
do
to make an
see
appointment with
we see-
Robin or?
Right, we see folks by appointment, but calling Robin is the best way to get exactly how that can work. But it has to
Yeah.
be in person.
Yeah, so Brenda, so I'll get in touch with the town clerk and find out the method to confirm your appointment and then make sure you're connected with the town clerk to get sworn in.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for catching that. Everyone who spoke up and said whoa when I got ahead of myself there. Okay, on to new business. Item 1, budget transfers request of Board of Selectmen. 1A is Finance Office Furnace. Erica, you want to give us the quick?
Sure. Thanks for
Yes.
considering. I think I sent a memo that Mike, I hope you shared with the board.
I did.
It came to you at your last meeting with some previously unexpected expenditures. The first being replacing the furnace in the finance office. We were able to, for both that and the South Wellington Lotsip project design, we were able to locate funds within our current operating budget out of the employee insurance line item. That line item was overstated because we got final numbers after the budget process last year. And we don't expect that this year. We really pushed hard to get numbers as soon as possible. So we were overstated about $45,000. This board previously approved a transfer of $5,000 for open space out of that $45,000, leaving us about $40,000 in excess. And so I'm asking for a line item transfer from the employee insurance for the furnace project to the TOB maintenance and miscellaneous line item. And then for design that we spoke to you about last month for the design process towards the portion towards the almost $1 million grant, LOTSIP grant that the town has been awarded from, again, the employee insurance line item to 503 capital projects.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think managed to share my screen. Can board members
Did.
do that? Okay. So right now our item 1A of new business is the upper on that page that's called Furnace Replacement and Finance Office. And Erica, it looks, let's see. Okay, so to approve this one, we would approve the
$7,200. Correct.
Yes, okay. So I will make a motion that we allow the transfer of $7,200 from line item 0831 to line item 0430 for the purpose of furnace replacement in the finance office. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion on the motion. Matt?
So did we plan ahead for this at all? Did we look and say that this is an asset of the town that's going to need to be replaced and budget?
We didn't
for it?
anticipate it needing to be replaced as soon as it was. And we have had multiple failures of this furnace this year. We had anticipated the other furnace, and that was in the plan. This was not. We thought we could get a few more years out of this furnace.
Okay.
Other board questions? I apologize while I'm sharing. Matt, go ahead.
Is there a reason why, maybe I just don't understand, and I apologize if I'm not keeping up, but why are we transferring between lines? Why don't we just simply spend?
Because we believe we can use dollars in the current budget, so it would not be an additional appropriation, an additional request from taxpayers. Because there was excess in this insurance line item, it was not currently earmarked for an insurance for the employees that we have. The insurance last year came in higher. The assumed insurance increase came in higher than the actual. So we use the assumed information that we know going into the budget and work to get as firm a number as we can before the budget is finalized. That didn't happen last year. Therefore, there's an excess of dollars there. So rather than ask taxpayers for additional funds from the general fund, we're able to use money that's already been appropriated. So there's no increased tax implication. If unspent, these were dollars that would then be returned to the town at the end of the year.
Pete Tanaka?
Is this the first time you're coming to us with this, Erica? Is this the first we're hearing about this furnace?
Tonight?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So this furnace repair has come up to us before.
It has. It came to you. I brought it to your attention last month, and
All right,
I
thank
thought
you.
we would be back. And we had a couple of vendor quotes we were waiting on. And then we wanted to look to see if we could come up with the funds out of the operating budget before asking you for a new appropriation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, other board questions, comments on this motion? All right, Marissa, you want to call a vote?
Yep. Pete,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes. Okay, that motion obviously passes. Item 1B, South Wellington Lot SIP project design. This is something we have discussed at previous meetings, and I'll direct the board members to the information I sent out earlier today. There was concern raised by the owner of one of the properties in the area. Erica, would you like to, whoops, I'm scrolling the wrong screen. Erica or Mike D'Amato, would you like to speak on this?
Our request is for a $22,000 transfer, again, from employee insurance to cover the design portion, which is what the town is, would be responsible for in the lot SIP grant. That would be a $999,999 project that begins at Hall School and goes forward to, is it Village Street, Mike? So
Yeah.
just prior to High Chase and the Mills.
Okay.
And Mike D'Amato was able to acquire some of the necessary items in this portion from the state as they were doing work in the area. And so we were able to get the cost down to 22,000. Again, these are already appropriated funds that we're using in this line item that was in excess.
Okay, so there seems to be, so when this came up before at a meeting, I brought up a bunch of questions about the history of the sidewalk topic between Hall School and the Mills, because this has been a thing that's been talked about quite a bit before. There was actually even a sidewalk committee appointed at one point to do some research. They brought back information, I think in 2014 or 15. And that is what led to some of my questions before, because I knew there were discussions about ownership of property and rights of way and who's responsible for what. And then a liability question and who owns the sidewalks once they're done, because none of that is town property. So then with the information from Mr. Busino, who, you know, obviously is probably the largest, I don't know, maybe the largest taxpayer, and that's why they're close to it. He has one of the largest buildings in that area. It sort of brings back up those same concerns I brought up before. So I guess I'm hoping that maybe you or Mike D'Amato has been able to find a way to address some of those questions about the history, about making sure we have some clear guidance on rights of way, and even to Tom Busino's concern that we're not going as far as the mill.
Sure, I'll start with the, as you all may recall, and Mike, you alluded to it, there was a sidewalk committee formed in 2014, and the final analysis of that report basically left in the air the question of who owned them, but made clear whoever repaired them moving forward would then have to take ownership of them. And the recommendation from that committee was two things: to look for grant funds in order to replace the sidewalk so as to not burden taxpayers, or to remove the sidewalks, which is, could be an additional expense. And so I know the town, at least in my tenure, has been looking for grant money in which we could use that, again, wouldn't burden taxpayers, in order to repair those sidewalks. It does mean the town would have to take ownership, but at some point, someone is going to have to do something about them. As far as the project, we extended all of the dollars possible, and they took us as far from the school to Center Street, I'm sorry, Village Street, so they did not allow us to continue farther. If there were more dollars, we would love to have been able to complete the entire project.
So the question about the ownership and the liability, and you just touched on it. Right now, the town of Willington owns nothing there. It's either state highway or the private property owners, correct?
I wouldn't say that. That study really left it in the air. There's really no clear cut answer to that.
Well, certainly the
once you repair
sidewalks on the
them-
side of a state road probably don't
Correct.
belong to the town. Probably. And the town doesn't own any property there, right? The closest thing to town
That's correct.
school, which the town does not own.
The town does own that property.
The town owns the school property?
That is correct.
Oh, but just with conditions that it returns to the whole.
Correct.
Okay, understood. Okay. But then if this grant goes through and the sidewalks are installed, then the town now owns those sidewalks.
We would be responsible for them.
And
That's
does that
correct.
mean we're also gonna have to do snow removal?
No, we have an ordinance that speaks to snow removal currently. That is already on the books that says the property abutting that would be responsible, and that's already an existing ordinance.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other board members, pardon me, because I have to scroll. Matt?
Was that, there was a letter from someone expressing Abacino or something like that? Was that forwarded to us?
I forwarded the email from Mr. Bucino today to board members.
I apologize. I thought I got everything, but I must have missed that one.
I got it within probably half an hour of me getting it. I sent it right out. Let's see. Let me make sure of that. I'm in email now. You're probably looking at my email.
Oh, that's you. I thought that was me.
We can all see your email if that matters to you, Mike.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. This is my
Okay.
town email. I try to be I try to be apropos here.
Hey, Mike, you can.
I think it was that one at 2:02 p.m., Mike.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So this did go to, yes, it went to all board members at 2:02 p.m. All right. Now, how do I stop doing screen sharing?
Green
At the
button.
top, green button at the top.
Oh, this one. Haha. The one that says stop share.
That's the one.
Okay. Any more board discussions? Now I can see you all again. That's good too.
Yeah, unless Christina wants to go first. She raised her hand.
Well, I guess my question is, why aren't we doing the engineering all the way down? At least I know we don't have the money, and the grant wouldn't cover going all the way, but maybe the engineering could be done all the way so that in future years we would know how much to appropriate or to plan for, because it seems to me if we're going to go that far, the plan would be to keep going at some point in the future and maybe even apply for more grants, which was part of what came out of the sidewalk committee and then the whole VCI grant that we got to have the mill and the whole district considered a historic district, which it took a couple of years, but we went through the process and it was determined that it is. So maybe there's other grants we can apply for, but in that case, we're going to need the engineering done for the whole thing for the remainder as well. So why not do it all now? I guess is my question.
So,
Erica or Mike,
Yeah.
any response to that?
I mean, the one thing that I would say is that sometimes the parameters and the criteria by which we have to design a project is tweaked based on a grant or a project that, you know, what if we're applying for a steep grant versus lot zip versus something else, the specific design criteria and the level of plans is different. So that could change depending on the project. Also, the criteria by which we have to design could potentially change because it's a state road. We have to meet certain guidelines based on the highway design manual. And if those specs change, some of the engineering would have to basically be redesigned. The third thought that I have is that some grants pay for design and others don't. So if we paid the design ourselves and then found a grant that would have covered it, that would be an out-of-pocket expense. Certainly lot zip is a very appropriate grant and we would look to do it again when it became available. But the funding historically has been very sporadic as far as how many projects they are able to fund. And as a rural community, we compete for a set aside, which is in some cases only 10% of the total grant funding for the state for that year. So Willington competed for $3 million this year as a rural community. So that's the only kind of thoughts I have thinking about it. Top.
Lisa?
I have a question for Erica.
Sure.
If somebody so today, who owns the sidewalks?
it's not clear, Lisa.
So
It's not there's no clear answer. there. I
okay,
wish
so
there
if
was.
somebody gets hurt on those sidewalks, who's liable? Not clear,
Not clear.
which is meaning we are.
And that I'm
Possibly.
not sure. Right.
Right, I
so,
just wanted to ask
yeah,
that, thank
yeah.
you.
I wish we had a clear answer to that. And I will say, I've been committed to trying to find funds to do that entire project. And this is the first grant that we found, and had hoped that when we narrowed it down to this project, it would go the entire way. We are following some state guidelines and thus the dollars didn't go as far as we would like them to. I will also mention that not the rest of the sidewalks from High Chase to the mills, but Mr. Bucino and ECHAP was granted $1 million grant. And some of the items that could have qualified under that grant were things such as repairing the sidewalks in front of that building. And so I would ask, we think it's enough that we're still looking and we're hoping to do that project. And I would hope that as a property owner, they would be looking at it the same way.
I also think that High Chase is, you know, that those residents are part of Willington.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And again, the initial
And it's a
scope of work-
business. It's an
Yeah.
important business
It
too.
is,
in
and they
town.
both are. And the initial scope of work was hoping to go that way. Look, if we were able to change the parameters of the grant with the dollars that we had, we would like to go farther. We just, at this point, we are set moving forward. To Christina, to your point, you know, do we do some separate engineering so that we know what the cost would be going forward? That's something to look at. I know Mr. Buccino's request to, I believe this board, is that you know, he asked for emergency funding to put the sidewalks in. You know, I couldn't even tell you what those dollars are.
Matt?
And are those more emergent than the rest of the sidewalks in that area?
I'm just concerned about the safety issue. I mean, I just feel like
Right.
it's our issue, yeah.
Right. And
Okay.
they've been this way
Matt,
for a
go
long
ahead.
time, and that doesn't make it appropriate. And so we're trying to rectify as we can without a large burden to taxpayers.
Yeah, I
Nick,
just,
go ahead.
I read that the letter in the break, and he indicated they should move ahead, but also contingent on committing to doing more work or something like that. I didn't quite understand that.
So if you want me to clarify, or Eric, or
Yes,
do you want?
no, Mike, go ahead.
So we had a meeting with a number of members in the area, a number of tenants in the mill building, and Mr. Bucino. And what I will call the ask from them was modify the grant application to include work in front of the mill. The problem that we ran into is, as Erica alluded to, we have a max cap of $999,000 that the state will award us. We can't do from the school to the mill with the million. We'd need more. So the only way to do the mill would be to not do the school. We chose to start at the school because we felt that the ADA accessibility issues there were a primary concern, and the state had identified that they were a concern for them as well. And we ran the project as far north as we could until we ran out of money. The phase two, which would continue from that point towards the mill, is what Mr. Busino is asking you to grant emergency funding to do. So he's calling the project the entire scope of the South Wellington sort of village.
Thank you for that clarification. I'll just say, I used to live in a place, I used to live next to Wesleyan University, and they had a problem with speeding cars and in a non-neighborhood environment. So they took the road and they made it curve. They curved the road, they put in bricks, they put in islands, they put in shrubs. They changed the entire look and feel of that road. And what it did was it made a neighborhood out of a highway. I'm not as familiar with Wellington history as everyone else on this board, but if we attempted in the future to change the way that road works, we would have more of a village and less of a old factory on the side of a highway.
And
Christina?
well, and Matt, that's exactly what the goal is there. And actually that village from the mill and all of the homes in the church and the school is all considered a historical neighborhood. But it also, because it's one of the only full mill villages in the state of Connecticut, at least, that is actually still standing and still, so it's a high value historical place. And in terms of the potential of what could happen in Wellington, there was a consulting, one of the grants that we got back in 2015 or 16, that was the conclusion, is that there's a lot that can be done there. And that's what EDC is trying to do to help make it be a more pedestrian place, and where more businesses can come and people can live, and that's the goal. It's just I'd like to see a CIP project for next year, or I just think we need to make it happen. If we're going to get this far, we should do whatever we can to get it going the rest of the way.
Christina, I agree. And one of the reasons you don't see it in CIP this year is because nothing fell into place for it to be done. By the time we were completed, if you recall, we asked for this as a CIP project. And then when we're done with this project, we'll have a better scope of whether or not we can extend those dollars to go further. And then a CIP project for next year in one of the out years then could be formulated with exactly what's left. If we're able to extend dollars, that's our plan. It was part of the plan in the beginning. It just, you have to start and stop somewhere.
Okay, any other board comments, questions on this?
Can I comment at all, please?
This is typically board discussion. Do you have such as a point of order, or can you wait until present to speak?
Yep. Okay.
Okay, we'll do present to speak again near the end of the meeting.
Mike, something just occurred to me. Is this going to affect that South Wellington 1 South Station at all, and their response times or anything?
No, I think it's all across the street.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
in that area, it's on the other side of the street, right? It doesn't even get to the fire station.
Yeah, all right. I haven't looked at blueprints or anything, so thank you.
This ends at Village Street, you said, Erica, so we'll include cutting out the that sightline hump in front of the old Victorian house and putting a sidewalk in there. Is that true?
What do you mean by sightline? You mean the actual roadway?
Well, there's a no, on the land on the side north of the church, there's the sidewalk ends at the church property. So
yes,
continue the sidewalk down to Village Street. So they would cut out some of the land, that hump.
Yes, because we've got to be able to get an ADA accessible grade to get people down that hill. So yes, that improvement would be made. It would on that side of the street.
Right, so it would be the east side of the street all the way to Village Street.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, I have to find that document again on all these screens. Okay, I am going to make the motion that the Board of Finance authorizes the transfer of $22,000 to line item 0503 capital projects from line item 0831 employee insurance. Anyone interested in seconding that motion?
I will. Second.
Okay. Discussion on the motion. Matt,
Can we increase the scope of that design project to include the design work necessary to meet our major mill owner's request that we extend to his, that we extend the project?
well, we don't know how much money that is, and we would have to find where we'd get it from. And I guess would that actually prevent the grant from continuing as it is? Would that somehow create a conflict with the grant?
So I have basically to tell CROG tomorrow if we have these funds secured or not. And so to your point, Mike, this ask would be higher if we weren't able to obtain some of the DOT survey work. So
Right.
You're correct in that I don't know how much that design would cost. And I'd have to get an assessment of what it would be if we didn't have that data existing. But I can't include that as part of what we're doing with the grant we have now because it's not within the scope. And I need to tell CROG tomorrow whether or not we have the funding to move the project forward or not.
Okay, so the design, whoever you're using for the design, are they being paid by the grant or are they paying purely by this money?
This month.
We will have to bid.
Okay, so if in the interim, the board or a magical donor from space, whatever the source of the money is, if it decided to add money to the design, as long as it was before you went out to bid, you would be able to expand the design portion if there was an appetite and money for that without affecting the grant, as long as you get approval for this piece tonight.
There is a strong possibility that we would have to revise our application to include this as a non-participating cost that's
Okay.
being borne by the town. And I'm not sure we can do that at this point. So I would just assume this be a totally standalone, separate thing that we're doing in tandem, but I wouldn't make it part of the existing project because it would require a revision.
Okay, Matt,
Yeah, let's just move forward.
other board comments, questions on the motion? All right, Marissa, call a vote, please.
Christina,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yeah, yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you for your consideration and final approval. I just will say that there is a commitment to continue to, complete this project. Ideally, if we can find funds, grant funds, we'll continue to do that, but we'll look forward in a forward motion to see if we can finish.
I hope we can find a way to do that. I think it would be good for that area and for those, those major facilities there. we're lucky that we have mills that have found a way to somehow keep themselves afloat, mill buildings that have somehow managed to keep themselves afloat. Okay, new business 2. Budget presentations, elected officials and commissions. Sub item A, 0121 Tolland Mansfield Probate District. If you saw in the communications, the probate district budget numbers are not ready yet. So I'd like to move that we table Department 0121 until the next budget meeting.
Yeah, second.
Any discussion on the motion to table? All right, let's vote.
Lisa,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
B.
Mike?
Oh, what? Yes.
Quick question on the last one, we really don't have a lot of say in, that's either a we take it or leave it kind of deal. We don't really get much say on that budget line item, if I remember correctly.
That is correct. Next item B, 0126 registrars of voters. I'll point out that they are presenting a 3.1% decrease. Is there anyone from that group who would like to speak?
Mike, Suzanne and I are here. I guess if you folks have any questions, particular questions on the budget, we think it's probably pretty self-explanatory. But again, we're here if you have questions.
It's looking like we don't have any questions. Obviously, thank you for, oh, I think I have one.
Christine, can you let the other boards in town know how to come up with a 3.9% decrease?
No, I don't have a magic pill. I'm sorry.
Thought I'd try.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this? All right, let's move on to C. Thank you to the registrars. I see 0131 Board of Finance. Donna, did you put together the little magic budget for us? I'm not sure if we've got Donna right now. I will tell you, as you saw in my emails, that I did ask Donna to put some money in there. I wasn't sure what line item it should be. We don't have it in front of us at the moment, and that's for discussion for us tonight. My thought was, as we move forward here, if we have to do anything in the world of policies or rules of conduct or order, things we've talked about a little bit over the last few months, that we may need to run something through the town attorney or whatever. So we may need a little money for hours. And when in the past, when we've come up with topics that we thought might involve the town attorney, one of the comments has been, well, you guys don't have a budget for that. Who's going to pay for those hours? So I was looking at it as sort of a contingency. We would put a little money in and have it available if we needed to bring in some hours of the town attorney or anybody else to help us with those issues. So I'll leave that up for discussion.
It's been a while, Mike. We used to have a boss contingency line item. I don't know if that's still.
I have seen actually in Donna's report, there was a line for that in there in Donna's, the status report that came out this afternoon.
Okay.
Matt?
So this is money that would be potentially spent on legal services for the Board of Finance?
if we needed to involve the town attorney or other administrative costs to, in getting approved or producing policy manual or rewriting some policies. We've spent a lot of time talking about the fact that we don't have a comprehensive packet even really to hand new members of the board. We have the state guidance packet, but we don't have, you went through it, Mike Perry went through it, I went through it, all of us went through it as we joined the board. We don't have a comprehensive document or manual that not only brings all of our stuff together, but maybe we just don't have all the right stuff either.
Mike, don't you have to have, we don't have a charter in town. Don't you have to start with that before you put in policy and procedure for the Board of Finance?
We have policies right now. We have policies like the reserve, the 8 to 12% reserve. That's a policy. So we do.
And that
have,
doesn't follow the state guidelines?
we have that policy. That is our own Town of Willington Board of Finance policy.
And that's the only one we have?
That's just the example that I can think of at this time, because a lot of our stuff is in other town policies. And that's a great example. We should all know this stuff, right? If we had a proper manual, we would know all this stuff. What are our policies? So we're not approving anything tonight anyway, so that's just a topic of discussion. Any more thoughts on that, or should we move on for the moment? All right, I guess we'll move on. 0132, treasurer.
Hello.
Lori, go ahead.
The budget is zero budget. I moved some numbers around because for some reason they got moved last year, and the year before 1920 is actually more accurate for different expenditures. And I didn't say this, I assume it's a given if there's a negotiated increase for the union people, I would assume the rest of the town, would be included in that, but anyway. So no increase other than if the town decides to do a salary increase, the numbers should stay about the same.
All right, thank you. Questions for our treasurer? All right, thank you, Lori. All right, next. I move we table 0135 Board of Assessment Appeals until.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
I'm on the Board of Assessment Appeals, and Ed said that he doesn't normally really do anything with it. He says the budget should remain the same, so he didn't submit anything, but
could you ask him to get us something so that we have something to review, and we will eventually need to approve it?
He says he's never done it in the past. I don't know, because I'm new to this board, but he said just keep the same budget, whatever it is. I don't know, but I mean, I can.
Ed Taman?
Yeah, Ed Taman.
I
He
will
knows
contact
that.
him.
He has to submit it.
I'll contact him.
Mike?
Yes, Pete?
I think that this year is the first year where I've seen everybody's budget come in the same format. And I'm assuming that has something to do with the board, the finance office's new software. So I think we need to see that budget in the format.
Well, a couple things have come in as letters instead of in the spreadsheet,
Okay,
but we'll keep working on that.
thank you.
For them, it's really just the salaries. And so the question is he asking for a zero increase to the salaries, or does he want to apply the whatever the number is that everybody else is applying number?
No, you talk about the Board of Assessment Appeal?
Mhm.
Those are just kind of stipend amounts, so I don't think he wants any increase on that.
I'll
Okay.
reach out to him. I'll contact him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to reinsert my motion to table 0135 Board of Assessment Appeals until we receive a budget. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Second it.
All right. Any discussion on tabling? No, let's vote.
Lisa,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, moving on. F, Department 0161, Conservation Commission. Does anyone from the Conservation Commission want to speak briefly?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Peter
Anderson?
Anderson, Conservation Commission. Let me just start briefly with what I mentioned in the present to speak regarding the open space Talmadge proposal we've brought to you. Just a couple things real quickly. We have the appraisals. They have come in. We utilized the money that you supported transferring from the insurance fund, which will be replaced when we go to town meeting. The appraisals give us maybe a little wiggle room for negotiation. So at this point, that's all I would like to say about the appraisals. The grants for the next year have not been announced by DEEP yet. We're expecting them likely or possibly next week when they announce the winners from last year's grant. So we will keep you apprised. We will not be going any further on this this project because we predicated the purchase on getting a DEEP grant. So that's all I have on that at this point. Our budget sheet is the bottom line stays the same. It's fairly self-explanatory, I think. I'll be glad to answer questions. I would just speak to briefly the largest category that we have, the $800, as including getting some professional help on the maintenance of the park. The commissioners are agreeing, or what's left on top is graying, and it's getting a little more difficult to carry chainsaws out to the far ends of the park to take care of blowdowns and trail maintenance and keep the trails safe. We hope in the near future to engage with management about redistributing some of the management responsibilities to other departments, but that's a story for another day. Obviously, or I think most of you probably know that the parks and trails have been well used in these COVID times. If you've been out to Moose Meadow on weekends or even on the parking lot on Mason Road, they've been full, and people have been parking out on Moose Meadow Road because of the utilization of the park. So it's important we keep the trails and infrastructure safe out there. And unless you have questions on any of the items that we've listed here, I will leave it there.
I have one question for you, Mr. Anderson. At the top of your letter, it says we're requesting $1,500. I'm assuming that is what is in your current fiscal year budget also. You're saying there's no increase?
No increase, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Other board comments, questions?
I just want to commend the board for their great work. I've been to lots of trails in lots of towns in the last year, and ours are great. You guys do a great job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you, and thank all of you for your commitment to Wellington.
Kathy, I see you unmuted. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, it was just available in case you had any questions I could help with. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. G, departments 0171, 0172, 0176. So that's planning and zoning, ZBA, and inland wetlands and water courses. The spreadsheet for that, it's all combined on the spreadsheet that's titled, the beginning of it, I think, is P and Z. I'm sorry, 21-22 planning and zoning is what it's called. Is there anyone from any of those groups? Mike or anybody, do you want to speak on any of that?
Yeah, yep. So I did submit a memo with my budget, and I went through this with Walter and am submitting this on his behalf. Everything is zero except for the one line item, which I'm basically asking to go back to the previous year funding level, which was reduced last year. And I've outlined in the memo a number of things that we're doing, particularly related to COVID and some of the transitions that we've had to deal with to provide services in a different way. So if anybody has specific questions, I can do that, but I don't want to read the memo if you all have it, but I'm happy to if you would prefer it.
I am quickly scanning through all the documents on my screen here.
Mike?
Yes, hang on, sorry, just was moving things.
No, other Mike.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. Oh, go ahead.
About the GIS project, I noticed there's a budget increase. Is that something that is planned, or can you tell us what that's about?
So a number of years ago, well over a decade ago, Willington invested in a document management system to create and digitize land use records. The town has been feverishly scanning and making those digital files since then. And so what we've done is create a link between that management system to the GIS so that residents can go onto the GIS and click on their property and then view all of the documents that our office has, because they can't come in and couldn't come into town hall to do that. So that link was established because to make the documents available through the program we currently have would have been thousands of dollars a year. This is a much more cost-effective approach and makes it so that there is nothing that a resident pretty much can't get from home if they can't make it to town hall. So we've been working to make sure that the GIS is kept up to date and continues to be the resource so that people can access that information.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other board member questions, comments? All right, thank you, Mike. Moving on to item 2H, Department 0175, Economic Development. Is there anyone from Economic Development who wants to speak? All right, everybody has the materials. They are presenting a 0% over the current fiscal year. Questions, comments from the board? Okay. Correspondence, you got everything that I've got. Matt, did you have something you wanted to bring up in correspondence that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I didn't know the purpose of the fire chief sending us the rules and regulations regarding collective bargaining. I didn't understand why he sent that to us.
We were having a conversation last week, and I'll let the chief speak also, but my understanding is, and he spoke at that meeting, when we were having the conversation about who is involved with negotiating the union contract, he was sending that as background information as to who is responsible, what the responsibilities are there, and I'll let the chief speak more if he...
That was the only reason for sending it, was so that when we were talking about it, I wanted to make sure you guys had the reference as to what I was referring to.
Thank you.
All right. So that does it for correspondence. All right, we're back to present to speak. So anyone who would like to speak and present to speak who has video, feel free to wave your hand right now. I'm looking to make sure I've got everybody here. Checking screens. Yes. Cool Dip? Can you unmute?
thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the owner for High Chase. I've had it for about, since 2014. It's a beautiful, beautiful building which was neglected. And the owner of the building was the actual owner of the mills. It's beautifully inside. There's a lot of beautiful, woodwork. So I would welcome anybody who wants to come and see it. I've tried to restore as much as possible. So really, want to thank you guys for doing this wonderful job. And yeah, my main concern really has been the sidewalk on the front and the liability of it. And I think you brought it up. I really don't have anything else to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who is in video who is present to speak, would like to speak, please wave your hand. We will try to make sure we catch you all. All right, anybody else who is not in video, but maybe calling in on a phone or using a machine without a camera, please unmute and call out your name if you'd like to speak.
Mike, Ralph Toulis here.
Ralph Toulis, go ahead.
How are you? I've been following this South Wellington Village thing. I was on the sidewalk committee that was established back, I think, in 2014. I prepared the report for the committee. We did a lot of research on the history of the South Wellington Village. Some things worth noting, I think, are the sidewalks pre-existed the paving of Route 32 and actually pre-existed the state taking over that road.
Wow.
It was a gravel road with sidewalks. I suspect the reason for that was so that the workers who lived in the village wouldn't be tracking mud into the buildings as they walk to work every day. Now, when the state took over that road, that's where things get fuzzy with respect to who owns the sidewalks. But it was our sentiment as a committee that when they state DOT took over, or the state highway department at the time took over that road, it included the sidewalks. So it was difficult for us to think that the onus for maintaining and repairing those sidewalks was on the town of Wellington. Since I think you'll find that once the DOT gets the right-of-way maps squared away, that those sidewalks actually are on a state right-of-way. Now, that gives you a little bit of background as to how we got to where we are today. Any design work that is done, I kind of agree with Christina that we should look at the entire package from the school to the end of the sidewalks at the mill. We have the gap in the sidewalk on the east side between Village Street and the church. There's quite a bit of a grade change there on Route 32. There's also quite a bit of height to that embankment on the east side of 32. That's going to entail a lot of work to build a sidewalk to Village Street. I think we're going to be awfully surprised when this goes out to bid what it's going to cost. The other point I'd like to bring up is what kind of things does the DOT have up their sleeve as far as traffic calming through the village and past the school? And how is that going to impact whatever work gets done with the sidewalk? All of these things are going to influence the total cost of this package. What happens with the grant if the final design and estimates from contractors comes in above the amount that we can get for grant money? I don't know the answer to that, and hopefully Mr. D'Amato might have some idea how that's going to be handled, because this whole project, we can just throw away 20 some odd thousand on design and the whole project dies because we can't get it done for under $1 million. But yeah, we've got retaining walls once we get north of Village that have to come into play. On the west side, across the street from the mill, the sidewalk does go up to the South Wellington station, and that's where it ends on that side. Does not pick up again until you're past the church on the west side. And I don't even think there was a sidewalk. I don't recall. I'd have to look at my report that I put together. Hopefully the members of this board have seen the report that was prepared in 2014 that outlines quite a bit of the points that I'm raising now. Other than, the issue of, is the DOT got something up their sleeve as far as traffic calming measures for Route 32? Because my concern there is, what's that going to do? How is that going to affect this sidewalk? And the one thing I hate to see, and I see it time and time again, road reconstruction, everything gets nice, everything is beautiful when it's done, and then they decide to do utility work. And we dig up the brand new pavement. If we rebuild sidewalks, and DOT decides they're going to implement some traffic calming measures and reconstruct the road, what happens to those brand new sidewalks? That's a concern. The other concern I have is, what is the current criteria for a sidewalk alongside a major state highway like Route 32? Can they be 6 feet wide with the curb right at the edge of the pavement? Is that safe for pedestrians? Is that considered proper design practice today? I'm not so sure it is. And maybe Mike D'Amato can touch on some of these things. Other than that, that's all I have to say, unless people have some questions for me.
Well, so this is present to speak. We're not really supposed to be conducting business during this time.
I understand.
Matt, you were raising your hand. Do you have something to ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if I could get a copy of that report.
I would have expected that you should have had that.
I'm sure we can find it.
I'd be happy to email it to whoever wants it.
Ralph, would you email it to me as chairman? I'll distribute it to the board.
Is your email address on the town website?
I'm sure it is. It's mmcoo at Willington, whatever.
Thank you, Mr.
Mike, I can send you your board the.
You have it, Erica? All right.
Absolutely. It's in the
Ralph,
Selectman's office.
Erica will send it.
Okay, Erica, you have it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can we also have a copy of the VCI report? From the historical district report. I forgot what it was called, but it was the VCI grant that got us the consultant that wrote the report, and it's a big report.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Anybody else who wants to speak and present to speak, unmute and call out your name, please. Okay. We're on to good and welfare. Again, the big thing for us is the pandemic, and things are improving. Everyone stay healthy. And we will wish Steph's family well, as they've had a significant event in their family, which is why she has not been joining us. Anything else for good and welfare? All right, Peter.
Move to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, everybody in favor, please say aye.
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 Night, Mike.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
who's gonna get Brenda stuff?
I'll start working on it tomorrow.
Or just have Marissa just get with her and.
Yep.
You know.
Yep,
Okay.
we'll get working on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Take care.
you.